Good afternoon. It is July 12th. We're close to it. This is 7A in New Jersey. And I just thought I'd take a quick walk around, just a quick one, to show you some of my in-ground trees. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show a progressive development of trees that you can look back at previous videos and then look at my video now and look at my video next year to see a progression with regards to pruning, so many different techniques, growing techniques, including even my container figs. And so I'm just doing this particular video for that purpose, so that at this time of year you can see where my fig trees are in their progression towards their destiny, their final destiny. Right now, I'm just going to show a few of the trees in my orchard. This one is one of my favorites. I've been eating Breba off, let's see here. Off this tree and others. And we still have some to pick. That's delicious. This is one of my all-time favorites. I absolutely love, and I would say that if you took all of the characteristics of the first crop figs, Breba, on last year's wood, that generally don't taste as well or as good as main crop figs, with most varieties. If you took all of the characteristics of the Breba crop, I would say that this is my favorite. Peter's Honey is my favorite above all others. They're just delicious. They're numerous. I've eaten most of these. There's some more in another tree we're going to walk over in a second, a larger tree. I have a very large tree in 7B. This is 7A. In Virginia, I have a very large tree, and you've seen it. The last video I did on pruning techniques, showing a 3-stage pruning over time and what the results are of that pruning. That is a Peter's Honey. And this one I planted a couple years ago, and it's just doing so well. It has an abundance of fruit, as you can see. It's just completely loaded up with figs everywhere. My Peter's Honey. I love my Peter's Honey trees. I've had this tree growing in the ground in several locations for 28 years. And I can only tell you it's winter hardy. It's just a wonderful fig tree. I've sung the praises of it many, many times, and you will see this tree in my videos several times. Okay. We walk over to here, and we have a work. This is a work. And oh, wow, what's that? Oh, I see something. Oh, what a pleasant surprise. And here I had thought I'd eaten most of them. Oh, wow, look at that. Peter's Honey. Would you just look at that beauty? Look how big it is. Heavy and hefty. Just a wonderful Breba. Look at that. Little itty bitty honey sticking out of there, dripping out of there. Let's rip it open. Oh, wow, that's a pleasant surprise. Oh, me, oh, my. Oh, this is what I love about growing figs. I so enjoy it. I've got to take a bite of this. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. It's irresistible. How can you resist? I can't resist it. I'm so glad that one was back there. I have to save this little part here, this other half. Hold on a second. I'll just put it up here on the window. You know, while I'm at that, I might as well just, this is a work. Look at that little devil. Oh my goodness, look at him. Look at that. You know who he is? He's the spotted lanternfly. Look at him. You've got to find another home, buddy. Beat it. You've got to find another. Come on. Okay, I'm getting distracted. Well, you know what? Since I ate that Breba, let me go over and see larger tree I have growing here. There's a bunch of breva still on here. I see a right one over there against the wall. I see another right one right here. Ooh, that's a nice one. Oh, wow, look at that. Man, that is a beauty. Look at that. Oh, wow. Come on. Oh, Peter's honey. Oh, a couple ants. No harm. Look at that. Peter's honey, I love you. These are exquisitely delicious, spectacularly superb figs. Hold on a second. Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I do get carried away after all of these years, so many years. I still am very, very, very excited about my trees. And here's an interesting thing. There's a lot of breva on here still. And here's an interesting thing about this. Now, let me show you an observation. I'll point out one. Because I planted this tree so many years ago, this Peter's honey, which is still doing fabulously, as you can see, it's growing, it's way up there. Unfortunately, it's starting to get shaded out by my very large persimmons trees. And these are magnificent Seijo persimmons, Japanese persimmons trees. And they're huge. And that one over there is 30 feet tall. No exaggeration. And it is loaded everywhere, as it is every year, with fruit. But the thing about it is, it's shading out, is beginning to shade out my Peter's honey. So what I decided to do a couple years ago, when I saw that was happening, oh, we're back to that again. Look at that. Let me try to get that in focus for you. Isn't that wonderful? Well, here we go. I can't describe it to you. I can't. It's good. It's so good. Let me put this other half up here. My wife loves Peter's honey. It's one of her favorite, if not her favorite, cultivars. She's also very, very fond of Randi Bordeaux. And a lot of other good varieties too. Now we're back to the O'Rourke. Let's just take a quick look here, a buzz around. These are different trees. I'm going to go as fast as I can. I'm not going much further than this. I want to show you the abundance of fruit that are on my trees. I want to show it all to you quickly, just this section, because I can't go any further than here. I can't go very far because there's just too much to show. I don't even know where to start, really. This is a Randi Bordeaux. It has a lot of fruit on it. It's an in-ground, completely in-ground tree, a couple years old, and it's growing really, really well. As you can see, it's definitely doing a good job of being a fantastic cultivar with lots of fruit all over the tree. And I'm looking forward to them getting ripe. There's nothing like tree ripened in-ground fig trees, in my opinion. For what it's worth, I always add that caveat to avoid any controversy. But in my experience, there's nothing like an in-ground taste. Fig trees taste better. Figs taste better when they're grown in the ground. Now, there's always exceptions. If there's a heavy downpour, and if there's been a series of heavy torrential rains, then of course your trees in the pots, in your containers might taste better at that particular stage at that time. But all in all, if you get a good crop of in-ground fruit in good weather, there's nothing that can compare to the taste of in-ground figs. And so I try to encourage everyone. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love my container figs, but I tend to stick to figs that I can't grow in the ground more. Those are the ones like Black Madeira and Italian 258. I love Smith. These are wonderful, wonderful varieties that do magnificently in a greenhouse or in containers when, of course, in a zone such as mine, which is 7A, which is very cold, I can't grow them in the ground. But like this little Celeste tree, which is a magnificent variety. It's a variation of Celeste. It belonged to my father. I'll tell this story next time. I'll take too much time if I do it now. But I do want to tell you the story about this particular fig variety. I have distributed this to at least one, and I'm soon to distribute it to another grower that I trust. And it is going to be named Carlo after my father, because it's just got a magnificent story behind it. And I sent away for this tree before the internet, before Wi-Fi, before all of that stuff. 20 some years ago, I sent away to California, and I did some business with a little nursery that wasn't too far from UC Davis, University of California, Davis. And they were doing experimental things there. That's what they were noted to do. I actually think it got mixed up, but I'll tell that story later. I think it's a Celeste variation, a hybrid. I don't know exactly. I never will know, but it's a magnificent producer, and we'll talk about it again. Okay, and then we're going to just slide over to here, and we talked about the Randi Bordeaux, which is one of my all-time favorite figs, in a container or in the ground. Oh, look, here we go. We've got some Breba here that are ready to be eaten. Oh, here's some very, very ripe. This one here I neglected to pick. Look at that. A couple of real ripe ones here too. Very, very ripe. Magnificent. And over here, some more. And this is Mavrosika. It's a very interesting cultivar. It's a slight variation from your typical Mount Etna. A very prolific fig. I've grown it for several years, and I love this tree because it, unlike many, oh, look at that. I should have gotten to this sooner. Oh, but we won't be discouraged. There we go. Look at that. Lude to the rescue. Let's take a, oh, that, doesn't that look divine? It's sweet. It's rich. It's delicious. I love my figs. Here's another one. Oh, wow. Now, I was saying that the thing that separates this, look how beautiful these are. Please, everyone, share my enthusiasm. Please, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Mavrosika. Another Mount Etna type. Very much like Hardy Chicago, but better, I think. Better, sweeter, richer. This variety is very interesting because it has more Breba. Every year it has just more Breba than your typical Mount Etna types. And they're big, they're large, and they are delicious. I should have saved that. I have more. But wow. I wanted you to see this Mavrosika, and it is magnificent. It speaks for itself. So it has more Breba. It has a distinctive taste. The leaves feel differently. Like if you go over to here at the Malta Black, and I love Malta Black. If you're looking to narrow down a Mount Etna type, and you don't want to grow the 60 different types, which are all basically the same tree with some minor variations because of geographic separation, countries separated by countries, gene pools. I can go into a big long spiel about it, but let's just cut it to the chase. I will another time. If you want to just narrow down your selections of a particular Mount Etna type or Hardy Chicago type, this is a very good choice, Malta Black. It's a wonderful, wonderful choice. But you see, it doesn't have as many Breba as Mavrosika. And there's one. There's a Breba. Okay, it's not quite ready. And it looks similar to Mavrosika, but it's not. I can feel the leaves. These are more velvety. I'm it sounds a little strange, but I like to feel the leaves. You know, I notice a big difference as I go through my orchard, always. And I can tell when a tree is a variant. not only by the slight shapes of the leaves that are a little different, but by the taste, the size of the figs, whether or not they have a lot of breba, the taste and flavor of the breba, the taste and flavor of the main crop fig. There's so many factors that I analyze in trying to determine how much of a variant one Mount Etna type or Hardy Chicago type is from another. And so my advice is, don't get sucked in. Here I planted another, this year I planted another of this particular variety, which is Malta Black. Look at all these figs. I planted another one right next to it because I'm running out of room, and I don't want to have figs too many. I already have figs all over the place, but I planted this one close so that they can grow together. And when I do have to wrap them, if I wrap them, I'm going to bind them together and just wrap them all as one tree. Okay, so let's go to the next tree. And this is a wonderful producer, and this I believe is Alma. It took me a while to figure that out because it was mislabeled by a very large nursery that I will not name, a very large nursery, commercial nursery, and they sent me the wrong fig. And that's okay, because I've grown Alma before in 7B, and it was very successful. So I believe this is Alma. Okay, it won't be the first time that I've got an incorrect label, but these figs are very tasty, and it is a prolific, and it apparently very winter hardy too. It's a prolific producer of figs, and the fruit is delicious, and it speaks for itself. And so I'm going to have a lot of these. Oh no, not another one of those little devils. Look at that. I've got to do, see, I don't like to spray chemicals on my plants. I like to go 100% organic if I can. It's very hard to do sometimes. And I'm not going to, I'm going to resist. I could have done it long ago and sprayed these trees. Because I will admit that I'm a bit alarmed that these spotted lanternflies are on my fig trees. But I have learned, I think I mentioned before, that according to some people that have experience with these creatures, and they were in Pennsylvania before they were in New Jersey, apparently they don't bother figs too much. So that's comforting to know, and I'm going to refrain from using any kind of pesticide because I just don't want to. All right, so we're talking about Mount Etnas. I want to talk about Mount Etnas again. I want to move on, but you can see this O'Rourke, named after the famous Dr. O'Rourke, the LSD figster, the famous LSD scientist who bred a lot of LSU varieties that are mostly have Celeste as a parent. And I love LSU varieties, and I'm a big fan of them. This one's O'Rourke named in his namesake, in honor of him. It wasn't his favorite. His favorite was this one, Champagne. Champagne was his favorite fig variety that he was able to produce in the laboratory and cross-pollinate. And but this one was named after him. And I love Champagne. I love it more than O'Rourke. I love O'Rourke. It's not my favorite of the LSU varieties, but you can see that it's a very, very strong grower, very vigorous plant. It's very fruitful, very fruitful. It just makes so many figs. Look at them all. I mean, I'm going to have difficulty eating all these figs. I mean, that's the truth. They're just all over the place. Look at them. So it's a great variety. If you have room in the ground, if you're in 7A or B or warmer, and you want to plant a reliable cultivar that's going to produce lots of delicious fruit for you, then by all means plant O'Rourke. But I can recommend another 20 different varieties that will do the same thing, but they're all different. They're all different. Now, here's another Randi Bordeaux. Oh, let's not forget Tiger. This is my magnificent Tiger. I have three of them growing in different places. I grew these in containers before too. It's a very good variety, LSU Tiger, and it has unique characteristics that I'm very fond of. It's not my favorite. Okay, I don't personally own LSU purple, but I have a neighbor in 7B that has a magnificent tree. That's a very interesting cultivar, and it just grows magnificently in the ground. And but I think the flavor's not quite as intense as I'd like in a fig. So I haven't planted it in my yard yet, but I like that. If I had to choose between the LSU purple, or champagne and tiger, I would pick those and not tiger. But hey, I don't want to discourage anybody from growing this cultivar. It's a wonderful fig. This tiger, LSU tiger. And you can see that there is an abundance of fruit on this tree. And I'm going to have a difficult time once again eating all these fruits. But guess what? I'll manage. Somebody has to do it. And so I guess it's going to be me and Debbie, of course, and probably little Penny Pop. She loves her figs too. All right, we go over to another Randi Bordeaux I have growing in the ground for a couple of years. And there's a lot of fruit on Randi Bordeaux, and we know about Randi Bordeaux. And we talked about Randi Bordeaux, and it's one of my very favorite cultivars, and it's probably my wife's favorite cultivar, and Peter's honey. And I just love it. There were no Breba, not one, on this tree this year, which surprises me. But Randi Bordeaux is not a big Breba producer. It is separate from the Mount Etna types. It's a French fig, and it's on the top of my list. I recommend it right up there on the top. When I say on the top 5, I don't like to say which ones, but it's right on it's in the top list. And it grows magnificently in containers and in the ground. In containers, it's one of the few cultivars where the taste is almost as good as in the ground. Not every cultivar has that characteristic. Many, many, many fig varieties taste terrible in a pot. One of them is Peter's honey, which I've mentioned several times before. Peter's honey is just, forget about it. I don't like it in a pot. Now, some people may disagree, and that's fine. But I've had a long experience with this fig, and I much, much prefer it in the ground. Much, 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 much prefer. I can't really tell you with that much enthusiasm that I prefer Randi Bordeaux, okay, in the ground than I do in a container. I do prefer it in the ground. I prefer all my trees in the ground if I can get them in the ground and if they are able to withstand the cold winter. But I don't really mind growing Randi Bordeaux in a container because it's just exquisite. It tastes exquisite even in a container. Okay, we move along. We're going to go to my Celeste tree. It's taking a little while, but I've got a lot to talk about. This is another tree, another persimmons tree. Let's just talk about my wonderful Celeste tree and look at it. Isn't it magnificent? That's my bedroom window right there, and I open up the bedroom window in the morning when they're ripe, which are in the first week of August, and I pull the branch, I pick fruit from my bedroom, and I eat them. I really do. I don't know. I just enjoy it. Yeah, I get a sensation out of that, And but the tree is prolific, as you can see. There's hundreds of figs on this tree. It's a large tree. It's just full of fruit. Look at them all. Every branch is laden heavily with fruit. Every branch. There's just fruit everywhere. Look at them all. Look. So, do I love Celeste? Of course. And I make preserves, and it makes the best preserves, I think, of everything that I've tested. And of course, I haven't tested them all. But I just love Celeste preserves. And it's a perfect tree that loans itself to making preserves because it gets ripe early in August in the heat of the summer with the hot nights. It usually gets ripe when it's dry and hot, so the weather's perfect for producing superb figs with exquisite characteristics and flavors. And you just pick this abundance of fruit, and there's so many that it's not difficult to accumulate a big pot full that you can cook down into preserves right away. And so it lends itself wonderfully, magnificently, spectacularly to making preserves. And so I highly recommend it for that and for so many other reasons. It has a close eye. We've talked about this before. Celeste is just Celeste. Celeste is just a wonderful tree. Don't overlook it. If you can plant a tree in ground, get Celeste in the ground. Period. End of story. My opinion, for what it's worth. Okay, so we move on. Now I'm going to, we already went past the Peter's honey. There's another Breba right there that I feel like I'm eyeing it, and I feel like devouring it. And I see a couple more over here that look right. But I'm going to let them stay another day. I'm going to resist the temptation. And I'm going to be back with you for a moment, and we're going to take a look at another Mount Etna type and do some more comparisons and talk a little bit more about the variations between the hardy Chicago Mount Etna types. Okay, another Mount Etna type, hardy Chicago type. And remember, there are 60 of these, 70s. Don't be fooled. Most of them are either they are the same, and many of them are, unfortunately. They come under different names or being sold under different names, but they're just the same fig. But some of them have minor variations, and I've explained why they have minor variations. But those minor variations mean a lot if those variations are something that you really value in a fig, in the characteristics of a fig. Now this has some Breba. Let's open one of these. This is Black Greek Marius, and you can see that the color is very much like Mavrosika, very rich. This is a berry tasting fig. I like this fig very, very much. I like Black Greek Marius very much. There's another Breba. See, they're not quite along in their maturity, in their maturation process, in their fruition process as Mavrosika. There's a ripe one there. We're going to eat that one too in a minute. Now I can tell a difference between this, but it's a small difference. So I don't want to rave too much about this and Mavrosika. But let's look at something else. Look at the shape of this tree. This is an entirely different tree. The shape of this tree, the growing characteristics, the scaffolding, if you will, okay, is very, very different than the way the upright way that Mavrosika grows, at least in my experience. And the figs are larger with Mavrosika. I think they're tastier, a little bit tastier.